Welcome, gents. What really happens when a Sigma male undergoes a spiritual awakening? It is not some dramatic lightning strike from the sky or a sudden moment where everything changes overnight. Instead, it is a gradual unfolding, a quiet shift where he begins to see life with fresh eyes and a deeper sense of truth. For a Sigma male, who has always trusted his own path, this awakening takes him even further inward, peeling away the layers of pressure, expectation, and noise that society often piles on a person. He starts realizing that strength is not only about independence, but also about understanding himself on a much deeper level. His thoughts slow down, his intuition sharpens, and the restless chase for recognition begins to lose its grip. What once looked like success may start to feel empty if it does not align with his true values. He begins to measure life less by what he achieves and more by how much peace and authenticity he carries within. This awakening also reshapes how he relates to others. Some connections fall away gently, while others grow stronger, because he no longer holds on to relationships built only on need or convenience. His perspective on pain, failure, and uncertainty changes as well. Instead of running from them, he learns to sit with them, and in doing so, he discovers a freedom that cannot be shaken. If you are on a similar path, take encouragement. Awakening is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. And once you step into that truth, you will never see life the same way again. Now, let's dive in deeper. Number 1. He becomes comfortable with paradoxes, living with both certainty and mystery without needing one to cancel the other. Most people struggle when faced with contradictions. They want things to be either black or white, right or wrong, safe or dangerous. But when a Sigma male goes through a deep transformation, something unusual happens. He becomes comfortable with paradoxes. Instead of fighting the tension between opposites, he learns to live inside it, and that gives him a kind of balance that very few people ever find. Think about it. In everyday life, we are often told to pick a side. At work, you are expected to either play by the rules or risk being labeled as difficult. In relationships, you are told you must either be strong or soft, never both. Society likes neat boxes, but real life does not work that way. A spiritually awakened Sigma male begins to see that certainty and mystery can exist together. He does not need to crush one to keep the other alive. For example, he may have clear principles about honesty and loyalty, yet at the same time, he accepts that people are unpredictable and may still betray those values. He can stand firm in what he believes while allowing space for the unknown to unfold. This does not make him weak. It makes him steady, because he is no longer threatened by uncertainty. This way of living changes everything. Instead of running from the unknown, he invites it in. Instead of fearing what he cannot control, he allows it to teach him. Imagine how freeing it feels to walk through life knowing some answers while still respecting the beauty of unanswered questions. That is the paradox he embraces. And in a world obsessed with certainty, his ability to hold both peace and mystery in the same hand makes him unshakable. Number 2. His creativity blossoms because he is no longer bound by fear of judgment. Ideas flow as naturally as breathing. When fear of judgment is gone, something magical happens. The mind that was once weighed down by worry and hesitation suddenly feels light, and in that space, creativity begins to bloom. For a Sigma male who has undergone a spiritual awakening, this shift is powerful. He no longer wastes time asking himself, "What will they think of me?" or "Will this be accepted?" Instead, his ideas begin to flow freely, without the heavy filter of other people's expectations. Think about how children create. A child can draw a crooked house with purple skies and green oceans, and in that moment it is perfect. They do not pause to ask if someone will laugh at them. They simply express what comes naturally. That same spirit returns to the awakened Sigma male. He rediscovers the fearless creativity that many adults lose when they grow up. In everyday life, this could mean writing without worrying if every sentence sounds polished. It could mean starting a business idea without waiting for everyone's approval. It could even mean expressing his feelings openly through music, painting, or conversation without the fear of being misunderstood. His creativity is not limited to art alone. It touches the way he solves problems, approaches relationships, and even sees opportunities where others only see obstacles. The beauty of this blossoming is that it does not feel forced. Just as breathing happens naturally, so do his ideas. He might be walking down the street, sitting quietly in a cafe, or even lying awake at night, and suddenly a thought, an image or a plan comes alive in his mind. Because he is no longer paralyzed by judgment, he has the courage to act on those sparks instead of letting them fade away. In a world where so many dreams die in silence because of fear, his creativity becomes a living proof that freedom of thought leads to a richer, fuller life. And that is what makes his journey not only inspiring but also deeply relatable. Number 3. His intuition sharpens to the point where logic alone feels incomplete. There comes a point in a Sigma male's journey where logic alone no longer feels like enough. He has always relied on reasoning, analysis, and sharp observation to navigate life. But after a spiritual awakening, something deeper begins to guide him. His intuition sharpens. It is not about guessing or wishful thinking. It is about trusting those quiet signals that rise from within, the ones that speak before words even form. Imagine standing at a crossroads in life. On one side, everything looks safe, practical, and logical. On the other side, the path feels uncertain, but something deep inside whispers that it is the right direction. Most people ignore that whisper because they fear being wrong. But the awakened Sigma male learns to lean into it, because he understands that intuition is not the enemy of logic. It is the missing piece that completes it. This shows up in everyday life. In business, he may choose to follow a gut feeling about a partnership even when the numbers look average, only to discover later that it was the best decision he could have made. In relationships, he senses when someone's words do not match their true intentions, and instead of brushing it aside, he pays attention. Even in simple daily routines, like meeting someone new or making a quick choice, he finds that listening to his inner compass often saves him from wasted time and unnecessary mistakes. The more he trusts these signals, the stronger they become. It is like building a muscle. At first, it feels faint and easy to doubt, but with practice, the clarity grows. What makes this transformation so captivating is that it does not push logic away. It blends logic with intuition, creating a balance that feels both grounded and elevated. Living this way gives him a quiet confidence. He does not need to explain his choices to everyone because deep down he knows why he made them. And in a world that often overlooks the power of inner knowing, this sharpened intuition becomes one of his greatest strengths. Number 4. He starts valuing questions more than answers, knowing that the right question can open doors that answers sometimes close. Most people are trained to chase answers. From school to work, life often feels like a long test where the person with the quickest or smartest answer wins. But when a Sigma male goes through a spiritual awakening, his relationship with knowledge shifts in a powerful way. He begins to value questions more than answers because he realizes that the right question has the power to open doors that answers sometimes close. Think about everyday life. Someone might ask, "How can I make more money?" That answer might give them a short-term plan. But if the question shifts to, "What kind of life would make me truly fulfilled?" Suddenly the conversation changes. The first question locks the person into one track, while the second question opens up new paths they might never have considered. This is what happens when a Sigma male sharpens his awareness. He no longer settles for surface-level answers. He digs deeper with questions that stretch his vision of life. You can see this in the way he interacts with others too. Instead of jumping in with advice, he may ask someone, "What do you really want here?" Or, "Why does this matter to you?" Those questions often leave people pausing, reflecting, and sometimes realizing truths they had been avoiding. The awakened Sigma male understands that an answer can end a conversation, but the right question can expand it. This shift gives his life a richness that cannot be faked. He looks at his own challenges differently. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" he might ask, "What is this teaching me?" That simple change transforms obstacles into opportunities. By valuing questions, he shows that wisdom is not about having everything figured out. It is about having the courage to keep searching. And that is what makes his journey so relatable, because deep down, we all know it is the questions we dare to ask ourselves that shape the direction of our lives. Number 5. He no longer measures himself by achievements or failures. Instead, he starts weighing his life in terms of alignment with his inner truth. From the time we are young, most of us are trained to measure life in numbers. How many grades we got right in school, how much money we make, how many promotions we secure, how many goals we tick off our list. Success and failure become like scoreboards, and we learn to judge ourselves by them. But when a Sigma male experiences a spiritual awakening, that scoreboard begins to lose its grip on him. He no longer measures himself by achievements or failures. Instead, he starts weighing his life by something far deeper, alignment with his inner truth. This change is profound. Think about someone who spends years chasing promotions at work. Every step up feels like progress, but when they pause, they realize they are climbing a ladder leaning against the wrong wall. The awakened Sigma male no longer sees worth in simply climbing. He asks if the climb matches his true values. He would rather walk his own quiet path with peace than sprint on a road that does not belong to him. It also shifts how he handles setbacks. Before, failure might have felt like proof that he was not good enough. Now he views it differently. If a failure happened while he was living in alignment with his truth, then it was not a waste. It was part of the process. On the other hand, a shiny achievement that pulls him away from who he really is no longer feels like a victory. This perspective brings freedom. He is no longer chained to society's scoreboard or crushed under the weight of comparison. Imagine the relief of living each day asking, does this choice honor who I am, instead of, will this make me look successful? That is the shift. His life becomes less about winning or losing and more about living honestly. And in that honesty, he finds a peace that no trophy or title could ever give him. Number 6. His relationships shift. Some bonds dissolve without conflict. One of the most striking changes that happens when a Sigma male goes through a spiritual awakening is how his relationships begin to shift. He no longer clings to people out of habit, fear of being alone, or a sense of duty that has no real heart in it. Instead, he begins to see relationships for what they truly are. Some connections are rooted in genuine care, respect, and growth, while others are simply built on need, convenience, or unspoken expectations. Once he recognizes the difference, the landscape of his relationships changes almost naturally. What makes this process so unique is that it often happens without drama. There is no shouting match, no angry farewell, no need to force distance. Some bonds simply dissolve on their own because he stops feeding what was never authentic. It is like realizing that a plant in your home has been made of plastic all along. You stop watering it once you see it was never alive to begin with. For example, he may notice that a friend only calls when they need something, not because they genuinely care about how he is doing. In the past, he might have tolerated it out of loyalty or habit. After his awakening, he allows that bond to fade, not with bitterness, but with clarity. He chooses to invest his energy in relationships that feel real, where love or friendship flows both ways. This shift also brings deeper connections. By stepping away from shallow ties, he creates space for authentic ones to grow. The people who remain in his life are those who see him as he truly is, not as a role he plays or a resource they can tap into. These relationships are fewer but richer, and they feed his soul instead of draining it. In everyday life, many people struggle with letting go of empty connections because they fear loneliness. The Sigma male's awakening shows that sometimes letting go is not loss but gain. By releasing what was never real, he makes room for relationships that feel alive, grounded, and lasting. And in that space, love and friendship become something purer than he ever knew before. Number 7. His hunger for external recognition fades, replaced by an almost unshakable peace in knowing he is already enough. This does not mean he stops working hard or loses ambition. It means his motivation no longer comes from applause. Imagine someone running a race with the constant hope of cheers from the crowd. They exhaust themselves, not because they love the run, but because they crave the noise. Now imagine the same person running simply because the wind on their face makes them feel alive. That is the shift the Sigma male experiences. In everyday life, this change is powerful. At work, he no longer needs every achievement to be validated with a title or public praise. He can complete a project, know he gave his best, and feel satisfied without waiting for others to clap. In his personal life, he does not bend himself just to gain approval. He can be kind without needing to be called generous, and he can be firm without worrying if someone calls him harsh. What makes this transformation so captivating is the peace it brings. When you know you are already enough, you stop performing and start living. The weight of comparison drops off. The desperation for recognition quiets down, and in that silence, the Sigma male discovers a deeper joy, one that does not depend on the spotlight. It comes from the simple truth that his worth has never been up for debate. Number 8. He learns to sit with pain rather than escape it, and in doing so, pain loses its power to control him. Think of how fire behaves. If you panic and flail around it, you spread it. If you pause and understand it, you learn how to control it, and eventually put it out. Pain works in the same way. The awakened Sigma male no longer fears it as an enemy. Instead, he sits quietly with it, studies it, and allows it to move through him. For example, imagine heartbreak. Most people rush to replace the emptiness with new attention or distractions. He, however, lets himself feel the silence of loss. It hurts, but in that stillness he discovers lessons about himself, about love, and about what he truly values. By not escaping the pain, he transforms it into wisdom. This practice also shows up in smaller moments of everyday life. If he faces rejection at work or disappointment in friendships, he does not rush to cover it up with false positivity. He gives the pain space. And strangely enough, the more space he gives it, the less control it has over him. The real strength here is not in avoiding pain, but in refusing to let it dictate his choices. When he no longer fears pain, it cannot push him into desperation or force him into compromises that betray who he is. Instead of running, he walks through it, and on the other side, he finds resilience that feels almost unbreakable. In a world where most people are prisoners of the discomfort they avoid, his ability to sit with pain makes him free. That freedom becomes a quiet strength that nothing and no one can take away. Number 9. Material possessions lose their ability to define him. He may still enjoy them, but they no longer hold him hostage. This does not mean he throws away everything and lives with nothing. Instead, it means he stops letting possessions control his identity. For instance, he could own a fine watch, but he no longer feels the need to flash it as proof of success. He might buy a comfortable car, but he does it for the joy of driving, not for the attention it brings. The difference is subtle but powerful. Think about how many people fall into the trap of chasing more, upgrading phones every year, buying clothes just to keep up with trends, filling houses with things they hardly use. They mistake accumulation for fulfillment only to find the emptiness still lingers. The awakened Sigma male steps off that treadmill. His peace does not rise and fall with the price tags of his possessions. This change brings a kind of quiet freedom. If he loses something valuable, he does not crumble because he never allowed it to define him. If he gains something new, he can enjoy it without clinging to it. His sense of self comes from within, not from the objects around him. And this is where the beauty lies. By no longer being a prisoner of possessions, he can truly enjoy them for what they are, useful, sometimes beautiful, but never the measure of his worth. That shift makes his life lighter, freer, and far more meaningful. Number 10. He finds himself both gentler and stronger at once, capable of deep compassion without surrendering his boundaries. In everyday life, this balance shows up in subtle yet powerful ways. Imagine someone he cares about going through a rough time. Before, he might have offered advice in a detached, logical way, or he might have kept his distance to avoid emotional weight. After awakening, he approaches differently. He listens with real presence, offers compassion, and allows space for their emotions. Yet he does not allow their pain to consume him or drag him into patterns that hurt his peace. His heart is open, but his boundaries remain strong. The same balance appears in conflict. He can stand his ground firmly when something is unfair, but he no longer feels the need to fight with hostility. His strength is steady, not aggressive. He speaks clearly, sets limits, and holds his position while still treating others with dignity. People often find this disarming because they expect either softness they can exploit or hardness that pushes them away. Instead, he embodies both at once, and it commands respect. This transformation also changes how he sees himself. He no longer feels pressure to choose between being the protector or the nurturer, the strong one or the kind one. He realizes he can be both without contradiction. That discovery brings peace because he finally accepts the full range of who he is. The result is a rare kind of presence. His compassion makes people feel seen and safe, while his strength assures them that he cannot be broken or manipulated. And that balance, once found, becomes one of the most unshakable qualities of his awakened self. Number 11. He no longer chases belonging because he realizes belonging is not found but created within. One of the deepest shifts that happens when a Sigma male goes through a spiritual awakening is how he relates to belonging. For much of life, many people search for a place, a group, or a circle that will make them feel accepted. They join communities, adjust their personalities, and sometimes even silence their true selves just to fit in. But the awakened Sigma male sees through this chase. He no longer runs after belonging because he realizes belonging is not something found outside. It is something created within. This realization changes everything. Instead of bending himself to fit into spaces that do not reflect his truth, he begins to carry a quiet sense of home inside. Picture someone walking into a gathering where they do not know anyone. Most people feel pressure to adjust, to quickly attach themselves so they will not stand out. He, however, feels steady because his sense of belonging is not tied to the room. It is rooted in his own acceptance of who he is. In everyday life, this shift brings freedom. At work, he does not chase office politics to feel included. In friendships, he does not cling to people who only tolerate him rather than value him. In relationships, he no longer tries to mold himself into who someone wants him to be. His belonging comes from within, and it travels with him wherever he goes. This inner foundation also reshapes the kind of connections he attracts. Instead of desperate ties built on fear of being alone, he draws relationships that are authentic because people can sense when someone is comfortable in their own skin. He does not demand belonging from others, and ironically, that is what makes people want to belong with him. The beauty of this transformation is simple yet profound. He no longer asks, "Where do I fit?" Instead he asks, "Am I aligned with myself?" That question makes him whole. And once belonging is created within, no rejection, no exclusion, and no loss can take it away. What does it truly mean for a man to awaken to himself? When a Sigma male undergoes a spiritual awakening, it is not about becoming someone else. It is about peeling away the noise of the world until what remains is raw, unshakable truth. He begins to live with clarity, balance, and a sense of peace that no achievement or possession could ever buy. The battles he once fought for recognition or belonging fade because he discovers that everything he was chasing was already within him. This kind of awakening is not loud, yet its effects are undeniable. His relationships change, his priorities shift, and his inner compass grows sharper than ever before. He finds strength not in resistance but in understanding, and he finds gentleness without losing his edge. He learns to walk through life with both feet firmly planted in reality, while his spirit remains open to mystery. If you are on your own journey and you feel that pull towards something deeper, take courage. Spiritual awakening is not about perfection, and it is not about living without struggle. It is about learning to meet life as it is, without running, without pretending, and without fear. It is about knowing that your worth does not rise or fall with titles, possessions, or the approval of others. So ask yourself today, are you living by your truth or by someone else's script? If a Sigma male can find freedom in awakening, so can you. And when you do, you will discover that the greatest victory is not in conquering the world, but in finding peace within yourself. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.